Severance Season 2 has come and gone, and my Innie is still grappling with the implications of the finale. My Outie, I'm told, loves crossword puzzles, short walks on dirt, and is a model train enthusiast. But even though Season 2 gave us plenty of answers, including the goats, we did it, everyone! We here at Nerdist still have roughly 1 quintillion more questions going forward. Some seem pretty simple, some are hugely complex. What will they spell for the future of the Lumon gang? The following is an internet-friendly numbered list of questions I put together along with fellow Nerdist macro data refiners Michael Walsh and Dan Casey, which will hopefully explore in depth as much as possible. If you'd like to go even deeper, well, Mikey's written a metric ton of about Severance in the last 10 weeks, so give him a look over at Nerdist.com. And finally, before we start, this list will obviously spoil things that happened in Season 2, so go watch it and/or don't complain to us about it. The board does not take kindly to whining. All right, let's do this. Question 1. We actually already have an answer to. Was that Helly R or Helena with Mark S at the end of the finale? The internet, as usual, was abuzz after the finale that the Brit Lauer who came around the corner and enticed Mark S to stay on the severed floor rather than go outside with Gemma was Helena Egan rather than Helly R. Obviously, this season played with the idea that Mark S is pretty poor at telling the difference and that Helena is a huge sociopath who would do that kind of thing.
I'm so glad.
So, was that really Helly, having left the MDR room in the capable hands of Dylan and a marching band? Well, Lauer herself gave us a definitive answer. Speaking to NME, the actress explained, quote, "It's Helly R. It was written that way, and there's no elevator scene in which the Innie/Outie transition would have taken place. She's running barefoot, and that's a sign. Helly doesn't like to wear heels." End quote. Adam Scott himself added, quote, "I don't know why people think it isn't Helly. It's Helly," end quote. I don't know, Adam, maybe because your show is weird. Anyway, so that's one question we don't have to worry about. Question 2, what will the Innies do after their larger and more successful uprising? Helly successfully rallied the rhythm makers of choreography and merriment to the cause of Innie's rights. With the help of Dylan and a vending machine, they managed to keep Seth Milchick from foiling the Mark's plan to free Gemma. As we discussed not 3 seconds ago, Mark S and Helly R are free, I guess, to have sex in any available unused office, and Dylan G can do whatever it is Dylan G wants to do now. But yes, they won. For now. These 2 things we know to be true. A, the Innies, these specific ones anyway, can only exist on the severed floor at Lumon. And 2, Lumon likely has safeguards that allow them to turn everybody off whenever they want. Now, what exactly that means, we don't know. We know from Season 1 that the security room has the controls for the overtime contingency, but I really doubt that is the one and only way, save a trip in the elevator, that Lumon can trigger the chips. The characters clearly thought about this too. As Mark and Helly, S and R respectively, run down the hallway, their smiles fall and turn to pensive stares when they realize the gravity of the situation. Maybe there's some world where Mark and Mark S come to some understanding, but do you think Helena's gonna ever? No way. Question 3. On a similar token, will Lumon just let Gemma be free? Yes, Gemma's alive and outside the doors of Lumon, but how far can she get without Mark? We better hope to hell Devin and Cobel are waiting in the parking lot because Lumon just sunk billions of dollars and probably millions of hours, I don't know how time works, into refining Gemma's chip, and they're very adept at making people disappear. She better run. Lumon's gonna send Tommy Lee Jones because Gemma Scout is a fugitive. I just watched The Fugitive for the first time. It's really good.
I don't care!
Question 4, what does Lumon have planned for Gemma's chip? So they spent all this time and money on making Gemma pain-free, kinda sorta, and her chip contains 25 distinct Innie personas. So what exactly is Lumon gonna do with it? Lumon's master plans remain a mystery. However, we know that they love to exploit their workforce and use increasingly elaborate salves to do so. Child labor using ether leads directly to severed employees not remembering anything about their workday. The whole point of Cold Harbor was to ensure that no amount of an Outie's pain and turmoil find its way into the Innie's life. Mr. Drummond said it was part of Kier's legacy, eliminating pain. But if you eliminate pain, you also eliminate humanity. So will people willingly sign up for a pain-free existence, allowing Lumon to use them for all the free labor for eternity? I wouldn't be surprised. That chip is the key to the most terrifying kind of utopia, where the workforce doesn't know who or what they are and will devote themselves wholly to Kier. Question 5. Speaking of plans, what exactly is Cobel's plan now? So we know now that Harmony Cobel invented Severance technology, which honestly makes way more sense than James the human windsock Egan doing it. But season 2 showed us that it doesn't matter who even knows that she did, the Egans and the board do not want her in charge of anything anymore. If we are to believe her, and I guess we have to for the moment, that she is an ally now, at least in the enemy of my enemy is my friend sense, then what does she want? Does she want to bring down Lumon or just take it over for herself? She was a born and raised Kier Eeg stan, and just because her mother hated Lumon and Lumon screwed her over, is that enough to completely renounce the Nine? Is she more like her Aunt Sissy than we maybe think? Question 6. Will Milchick turn against Lumon? I thought for sure, after all the micro and macro aggression Seth Milchick faced this season, that the finale would find him turning against his employers. Especially after that comedy routine with the Kier robot. What the hell even was that?
You're looking very handsome, sir.
Thank you.
Who was voicing that robot? And why did it seem to visibly vibrate with rage when Milchick made the joke about Kier's height? Is that Kier's brain in a robot body? Sorry, sidetrack. Milchick didn't turn against Lumon, but that doesn't mean he won't. He definitely seems unhappy with leadership. He knows they don't value him at all, even though he is, in fact, incredibly valuable to them. He also, just for a moment, realized he has zero life outside of work when he was talking to Mark on the phone in episode 9. Right now, the dude is Kylo Ren, poised to either go full evil now that Drummond got goat-necked, or completely turn against the company. Time will tell. Okay, now we get to some really juicy questions, all involving our boy, Irving. The first and biggest of these is question 7. What is Irving's f***ing deal? Irv B proved himself time and again to be not only the show's moral center, but also the romantic heart. But once he outed Helena as a fake Helly R in the Ortbo, he's been absent from the series. His outie, Irving, is one of the series' biggest enigmas. We know he's been calling someone on a payphone and giving them updates on Lumon stuff. From last season, we know he lives alone, is a former military person, and kept himself up all night painting what we now know is the hallway to the testing floor. He's a big fan of impasto style. I had to look that up. This has, of course, led us to believe Irving was previously severed prior to his Irving B persona as we know it. At one point in season 1, Irv says he's worked at Lumon for 4 years, but his dossier says it's been 9. Adding a big wrinkle to this is question 8. Why didn't Cobel know about Irving knowing the testing floor? This was low-key the biggest shock of the finale. Cobel has been in the thick of it with Lumon and Severance since the beginning, as far as we know, and yet she, the inventor of the procedure, didn't know that one of her current employees had been to the testing floor. So, question 9. Does that mean Irving was a previous test subject? I think this seems very likely. However, he probably was a bust. Maybe he'd only been severed a few times, far fewer than the 25 apparently necessary for true Cold Harborism.
You smug motherfucker. You're not severed.
Irving's memories of his paintings have bled through into his Innie's dream, and despite perhaps agreeing to be part of the program in order to spy on things without even realizing it, we're not sure how many other Innies he has. Question 10. Who is Irving calling on the payphone? At first I thought maybe it was Bert, but now we know Bert was a Lumon goon.
Lumon goon. That stings.
So who is Irving actually calling? Who else is investigating Lumon? Surely all sorts of people have reason to do so. However, I have a little pet theory about this. His name is John. What if Irving is calling himself, specifically another personality of his? Maybe an earlier version of the procedure was way worse at making sure the personas were locked behind Lumon's elevator tech. So what we think of as Irving's outie might in fact be another Innie who is just allowed to be out. I don't know what that could mean, but that's the beauty of theories on the internet. Either I'm right or I'm not, and I don't have to prove anything. Speaking of weird people, question 11. Is James Egan actually severed? Hear me out. James always seemed like an aloof, wispy ghost, never showing discernible emotion, as is the Egan way. That is, except for one single scene. At the end of the finale, James goes down an elevator which opens to a single room with a single desk, chair, and computer for him to watch the culmination of the Cold Harbor. He seems really, normal in these scenes. He reacts like a person, right down to yelling and swearing when Mark foils their weird plan. It felt weirdly out of character for a porcelain knapsack full of eggs. So maybe the Jame persona is an Innie, or whatever we want to call it, or, and this seems imminently more likely, he knows, just as Helena does, that the whole Kier thing is bullshit, and he just has to pretend he's a veilless Miss Havisham to appear divine, and so he can father a bunch of illegitimate children. Creep. Question 12. Will Jame make Helly R the true Helena? We learn from the oldest little boy in the world that he doesn't love his actual daughter Helena because she doesn't have the quote, fire of Kier within her, but that Helly R does. Of all the apparently dozens of offspring he's sired, he's never met anyone as ferocious as Helly R and wishes his daughter possessed that. So why tell her that? Well, what if he offers Helly R the chance to remain Helly R in the outside world, provided she serve Lumen in his and Kier's image? Wouldn't someone who would fight so hard for the half-life she has be at least tempted by such an offer of autonomy? Question 13. Seriously, who is on Lumen's board? We didn't hear much from the board in the second season. Well, we didn't hear much from them in the first season, but we didn't even hear much about them in the second season. Lumen certainly has a very large board room, but do they actually have a board? Or is it literally just Jame playing dress up alone in his clubhouse his papa built for him because he was the goodest baby? Question 14. Was Miss Huang a Jame Egan bastard, a genetic experiment, or just another case of Lumen's long history of child labor? I kinda get the feeling it's the latter, but many people online have guessed she might have been the successful IVF child of Mark and Gemma. Unfortunately, unless they tell us Lumen has the power to unnaturally speed up the development of children, even the most advanced 4-year-old wouldn't be that big. Mark said he and Gemma have only been married 4 years. Sorry again, the unhinged theories on the internet. Question 15. Is reintegration actually possible, or is it just a red herring? Cobel seems to think it's just a crackpot procedure Dr. Ragabi came up with. She's even surprised Mark didn't die from it, even though we know he almost died from it. Did Ragabi make up the whole thing just so she could live in Mark's basement and watch his Apple TV Plus account for free? But let's say for a moment it does work, at least in theory. Is it even worth attempting anymore? Mark S. really didn't seem to buy it as more than a way to get him to cooperate. Like he even pointed out, it still doesn't really make them the same. At best, it seems like it allows for them each to have some of each other's memories. But is that good? Petey's reintegration got the plot rolling in season 1, and it was a major Mark arc in season 2, but will it keep being important? Question 16. What exactly do choreography and merriment do the other 364 days of the year? How often are an entire severed marching band and drumline going to be needed? Like, I guess Mammalian's Nurturable justifies itself with all the goats that are apparently sacrificed once they show verve and wiles. Sidebar, how can you tell a baby goat is wily? But the merriment quotient of Lumen seems exceedingly small, certainly too small to need it choreographed. Did they sever an entire marching band for this one performance? Do their Audis also play instruments? One thing though is fairly evident. Seth Milchick was the choreographer. Dude can move. Question 17. Will season 3's finale have another scene where Dylan says, "F you, Mr. Milchick"? Because I think that would be very, very funny. Question 18. If Mark S.'s 25 files were all about Gemma, what were the other MDR workers doing? Were they working on other people? Who on earth could Helena be that close to in real life? Or is it just Mark and Gemma were the first such couple Cobel attempted, and that's why it was working so well? This is neither here nor there, but what about that Italian guy who worked in a hole? What the f? Question 19. Is anything we've learned about Kier via Lumen's teachings actually true? Basically, everything we hear about Kier Egan has to be taken with a grain of salt. Like, yes, he married someone named Imogen and apparently founded a soap company. The rest of it is almost assuredly nonsense, or at least the nonsense of 100 years of rewriting the stories to make them sound more biblical. Nowhere was this more evident than the Ortbo episode, in which we learn of Woe's Hollow and Kier's first conquering of the Four Tempers, while his twin brother Dieter did not. But who is to say Dieter ever actually existed? It seems all the more likely Kier just made a name up for his dark side and said he slew him and sent him to hell or whatever. That's almost assuredly why Lumen employs lookalikes for its MDR employees, to embody the idea of overcoming your bad selves. I'll tell ya, Woe's Hollow needed some Ortbo bridges. Is that anything? I'm told it is not. And finally, question 20. Is the body shared by Helena Egan and Helly R pregnant? This is a rough one to try to think about. Not only is the show's theme of bodily autonomy on full display, but if it comes to pass, it has a couple of very troubling implications. First, since both Helena and Helly R slept with Mark S. in pretty quick succession, there'd be no way to know if the child would be the result of love or a lie, I guess we'll call it? What is the legality of such a child? Is it technically the company's kid? Second, how heartbreaking for both Mark and Gemma if it turned out not only did Mark's Innie father a child when the two of them couldn't, but that it's with the person next in line to lead the company who brought nothing but misery into their lives. That gets one big, giant yikes from me all around. I know it'd be good for TV drama, but maybe let's avoid seeing that particular thought experiment play out. Huh? Should we? Please? Can we? Oh, question 21. Who ran funnier, Milchick or Dr. Maurer? My money's on Milchick. Mikey says it's Maurer, and Dan abstained. Please settle it for us in the comments. Severance is quite frankly the best show going right now, and we need to know what happens. Get Stiller on the horn, and make sure he addresses all of these next season. Or at least a couple, I don't know. I don't want to tell him what to do. But tell me, what do you think? Do you think we'll get answers to all or most of these questions next season? Were there any big questions we missed? Oh, like question 22. Why can't Dylan's glasses go any further up his face? It stresses me out so much. Let me know in the comments below, and make sure your Outie finds all the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture at Nerdist.com. If you'll excuse me, I'm off to eat a watermelon sculpture of Dan Casey's head. Looks really good.